From the keyboard to the boardroom. This is the Business of Esports after show live stream. It's our post podcast live stream. I am Paul Dawalibi. I'm joined today by my friend and co-host William Collis. For those of you who are new to the after show, welcome to the official after show of esports. What we do here is we cover the slightly less pressing news and topics of the week, but we look at all of it still through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening. These days, the topics we're covering are just as pressing, William. Let's face it, there's no difference.
There's no difference. There's no difference. I was just debating my background for a second there. Yeah. By the way, Martin, great question. Where's the hyperscape music in the countdown? Somebody
hold on. We're gonna do all new video stuff. Like the intros, the countdowns. It's like two separate videos now, which doesn't make sense either. So like we're gonna fix all that. And actually the hyperscape music's not a bad idea.
Well, I almost am gonna ask Ubisoft permission to use it because I think it's the best song ever. And like do we have to get their permission, William?
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. I don't think you do. I was kind of wondering. Like, I don't know. It's just whatever. Let's just. We can probably just use.
Like, where does in-game music fall on that spectrum of copyright?
Well, isn't there like the NPR clause? Like, less than 30 seconds of a song is fair. There's something to do with like how NPR is able to play their little like hipster music between. It's like the NPR clause. I don't know. That's what I've heard it referred to. There's something you can do around fair use.
Greg says, "Woohoo! It's time." I agree. Woohoo!
I agree, Greg.
This is my favorite like hour and a half of the entire week.
Oh, it's a good time.
Army Pathfinder from the keyboard to the boardroom. Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna have from the keyboard to the boardroom t-shirts made, William. What do you think?
Oh, you have to. Actually, on the front,
keyboard in the front.
Yeah, keyboard on the front, boardroom in the back. Yeah. Why am I artifacting so badly on this side? I'm gonna have to when we go up a story, I'm gonna have to change my light.
Neil says my book just arrived. Neil, you're in Canada. Why did it take this long?
Yeah, is that the Neil Duffy, by the way?
The Neil Duffy.
That's the Neil Duffy. Yeah, look for all you exciting viewers. We have a celebrity in the chat saying hi to us. Thanks for buying the book, Neil. I promise you're gonna love it. So,
I just think it's hilarious that I think Martin, who's in Australia, right, got it before.
We've had some major issues with the book listing internationally, actually, because it sold better than expected in the US. So actually, it's still not out in the United Kingdom, which is weird because I have like family in England. So it still has never released.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, because it's the way demand fulfillment works, right? Like it gets prioritized, I guess, in the region that it goes. So I guess somehow like when they have books, they ship them first to the US to close orders, then to US local markets like Canada and South, and then to abroad. So there's a lot of abroad. Apparently you can get it in Japan though, which is weird. Like you can't actually get
it should have come out in the UK before. Yeah. Greg Carney says, I'll buy one right now. Greg, you're here like every week. You hear me plugging this book every week. And only now you're buying one?
Greg, I seriously thank you.
Greg's here like every week.
But buy it and review it because I have to get the book to 100 reviews and it's at like 43 or something right now. So please buy it and review it. Unless you plan to give it less than 5 stars, then don't review the book.
Christopher says, got my copy too. Christopher, you'll have to let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Neil's going to pre-order the t-shirt. Yeah, the t-shirt's not a bad idea. Martin says, I did, and I finished it yesterday. Sorry, Paul, but the epilogue is better than the forward. The problem is, okay, guys, I'm going to say this one last time. I've said it before. Yeah. I wrote a masterpiece of a forward, okay? A true masterpiece of a forward. And William's editor, who obviously he's in cahoots with, right? And here's the conspiracy theory. They read the forward and they go, wow, like no one's going to want to read the book after this, right? The forward gives us everything we need. And so they were worried and they completely mangled my forward, which was like 20 pages became one. So don't like, you can't judge by what you see. You want an original manuscript? I'll send you the original forward as it was truly as it was meant to be.
I'd argue the opposite, Paul. I'd argue that the epilogue is basically based on the conversations you and I have anyway. So I'd argue that the epilogue is like me stealing from you more than like.
Oh, great! Now I'm getting ripped off too.
I take credit for both. You know, that would be what I would do. I'd take credit for the forward, the epilogue, and actually, Paul and I were talking about book 2 earlier today, guys.
Yeah, we were. I think we have a really solid. What would you call it? A theme now? Something overarching. I think we got
a lot closer today to a really good book 2 pitch. A really good book 2 pitch.
Hey Manas, great seeing you here. It's my first time seeing you here. And yes, Justin, actually, so let me jump into this. Justin was our guest on the podcast this week. Agent to many of the celebrities in the esports space. He's now head of the esports division at Ford Models, but has been a lawyer and an agent and talent agent in the space for a long time. I'm going to talk about the topics we covered with Justin on the podcast, but it was really a great episode, like very celebrity focused, which we don't always do, and was a lot of fun. Adam says, I'm in the UK waiting eagerly. Oh my God. I can't believe your book written in English is not at least in all English speaking countries. Like,
that's a whole separate discussion, but yeah, it's like, I can't believe it's in Japan, but not in England. Like I can't, like, that's the weird one.
Greg says, I'll buy the shirt now. I have 3 copies of the book and I've done the reviews. Oh my God, Greg, you're like super fan. You're the best.
Greg, that's
Martin says, send us the original forward. That I will sell the original forward for, I don't know, whatever twice the price of the book, because that's how good it is. So for $40, no, I'm just put up
not
the
original, not a bad idea.
Original forward
not
on
a bad
Amazon.
idea, actually. Not a bad idea.
Hey, Jacqueline, how are you? Good to see you. Okay, let's just jump in, William. Let me just recap for everyone what's going to drop tomorrow on the podcast, because there's some exciting stuff there. And guys, we're happy to revisit topics that we covered on the that we will end up talking about on the podcast tomorrow, that you will hear tomorrow when it comes out. But let me just pop this up here. So here's what we discussed on the podcast this week. We talked a little bit about the ribbing between the owners of teams around all of the tournaments that happened this week. CSGO, Valorant, there was a bunch League, obviously Call of Duty. And so the owners were ribbing each other. We talked a little bit about that. Christopher, if you're referring to esports monetization as my t-shirts or my forward, I agree. This is the epitome of actually esports monetization. I've figured it out actually better than any org, at least.
This is just not real. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just calling it right now. Like the stuff about the team owners don't hate each other. Like they get along. Like
but I told you on the podcast what bothered me about owners ribbing each other, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to see like the fun of big like NFL team owners ribbing each other is they're all like multi-billionaires. And so it's like, I'll donate 10 million to this charity and you'll wear my jersey for the next 6 months, or like it's something that's so tied to money usually, and it tends to be exciting. These guys were ribbing each other. They all have money losing businesses. Like, what are you ribbing? Yeah, he wins, he loses, but you're all kind of losing. Yeah, you're all losing.
And no, and honestly, when you talk, like, here's a good example. So we had a team owner on recently, right? We had Raynad from Tempo Storm on the live stream. Remember that? And
great.
Tempo Storm is like
super
lovely guy, right? Lovely guy.
Yeah.
Tempo Storm is a huge competitor for OXG and Hearthstone, for example, or Genji before that, right? Like they were a big competitor. They knocked us out. They crushed us in so many tournaments. They knocked us out all the time, kicked us out of prizing, like. Nobody cares. It's like that's like the game. It's like you're more in it together. No team owners hate other team owners unless there's some crazy backroom business deal, merger, buyout, and even then, like they don't dislike each other. You know,
I just think that there should be more ribbing among the players. Like if anything, esports is lacking that kind of personality. Well, like the players should be going at it, not the owners. Anyways, we talked about a bunch of celebrities. So Post Malone investing in Envy. We talked about Pusha T and Logic investing in Chaos. We talked about FaZe signing LeBron James's son Bronny. We talked about TSM acquiring a chess grandmaster, so signing him.
Greatest move,
which we all loved, by the way. Yeah, we were all a big fan of this. And then finally, we talked about Ninja, Mr. Beast, AimLab, and G2 winning the Fall Guys costume charity contest thing. So it was a totally celeb kind of themed podcast where we go through and talked about, you know, all of these celebrities and what their business dealings are in and around esports and what we thought of that. So that's what to expect tomorrow, guys. And if you want us to jump into any of it today, we're more than happy to. Martin says, you said it yourself in the book, William, the teams are on the same side gaining influence over the publishers. 100%. They should be, but they're not always that organized.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
Christopher says, Envy Gaming has so many owners, they're the Green Bay Packers of esports.
Me too, buddy.
I mean, like, can you imagine, like, forget about, well, Envy's one of them, but like FaZe, how many investments have we seen from FaZe from like literally everybody?
I would love to get a peek at their cap table. That's got to be like, that's basically a book. Like, you know, it's actually a disadvantage too. I wonder if it's going to come up that the cap tables get so cluttered on these businesses, you know, because you do actually want relatively clean cap tables if you can get them. And like these are pretty messy, I would guess.
It's a good business discussion. Yeah. Cleaner cap tables always better for new investors, right? New investors tend to clean up cap tables if they can, right? So they'll try and buy out, you know, problematic shareholders or shareholders who have maybe been in the deal for a long time to just try and clean things up. Where this gets messy, William, is if some of the investors in Chaos or FaZe or whoever, right? If every single one of them has like a slightly different deal, right? Different valuations. Some have warrants, some don't, right? Like if they're all custom deals and not clean and you've got 50 guys like this, that kind of cap table's a nightmare because then you raise money and, you know, this guy has this thing that triggers, that woman has this thing that triggers this, like,
nobody knows who gets what, where the common is, what's restricted. You can't figure it out. There's like, it is tough. Yeah. That's why. Ooh, we got another.
Jacqueline says, I love Ocelot's jokes on social. It creates narrative. Yeah. I agree with you, Jacqueline. Like, you know, the way he reps G2 is entertaining, but two things. One, I wish it was coming from his players and not him. Right. And what's coming from him, I wish was more like repping the success of the team. Like, look how much money we're making, right? Like the kind of ribbing I want from an owner, I want it to be more business focused. And the kind of ribbing I want from a player, I want it to be more game focused. Maybe that's just me, but look, at least it's something.
I don't know. I have no narrative. Problem with an owner owning a persona and adding value to a team that way. I guess that's not what I don't think it's the same, but I don't know. I mean, look, the end of the day, I mean, knock it all you want. It is working because we're talking about it. So, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm a huge
Does it help G2's business? Probably not.
I don't think there's such a thing as bad publicity, Paul. I don't think there is. So does it help? I don't know. Does it hurt? No, it doesn't. So
it can hurt. If I say to everyone watching right now, don't invest in G2 esports. See, like it can hurt.
No, you've only helped it. You've only helped it. It's a discussion. Because I truly believe that, particularly today in esports day, like it's such an eyeballs and awareness game. Like, you know, that's how the hoodie business works, Paul. Eyeballs and awareness are what drive hoodie sales. So
I'm telling you, we're hoodie billionaires. So we're on our way.
Well, with the keyboard boardroom shirt, you're gonna what? Is that gonna make 30,000 in the first minute, 40,000 units sold? Easily. Is there a high enough capacity factory in China to print these, to sublimate print these things? All right.
Look what we're going to start with, William. Your favorite.
Control. Very good game. No,
Jacqueline says, agreed it would be better if it was all coming from a place of huge profit. See, yeah, I agree. That's exactly, I'm 100% with you now. 1,000%. Like if they were all just making tons of money, like I love that ribbing back and forth between owners. Okay. Anyways, Call of Duty League. This is from ESPN. Sources saying Call of Duty League will not expand in season 2. Okay. And I will frame this because there were some rumblings even during the finals, right? There during the over the weekend, that at least I think it was the commissioner who came out and said, or was rumored to have said, that there was a ton of interest for expansion teams in Call of Duty, which made people think that they were going to be expanding. And then they kind of shut this rumor down saying no expansion for 2021. I mean, what do you make of that kind of mess, William? Because there was mixed messaging, right? There was messaging from the commissioner saying we have people knocking down the door, essentially wanting franchises, and now all of a sudden, well, we're not expanding though.
I mean, it's hard for me because I think there's very good reasons for leagues not to expand. Great reasons. Like for example, like the NFL doesn't expand every year. Right? There's a reason, because they think they've got the optimal mix. Like you can, if everybody has a team, the teams aren't worth anything, right? So clearly there's a scale where if there's just one team, you don't have a league. If there's an infinite team, so clearly your payout curve is, what's that? It's a Laffer curve. Is that the fancy thing? It's a tax.
But there's a simpler explanation, right? Which is if an expansion team is accretive to the value of the league and the value of all the other teams, then it makes sense to expand.
Yeah, that's the Laffer curve. It's a Laffer curve for this. It's the same thing as taxation, which is like, you know, like there's like at a certain point the value gain from taxation goes up until it's too high and then it goes down. If you go with traditional economics, there's a Laffer curve for league. Wow, I should write a paper on that. Actually, that's a good parallel. I'm going to file that away for like papers to. Actually, I just discovered today my first research paper on esports is going to get published, so we'll get to talk about that more. Yeah. It's a long story. I'll tell you about it, but it's just but anyway. So there's a Laffer curve, like it goes like this. So the thing I think we want here, right? If I'm not crazy, the thing I think we want. So basically, like, I'm fine if you're not expanding for reasons that you believe you're this part on the curve, right? Like we have too many teams. We got the right number. I'm also fine for expanding for more honest reasons, which is like, look, guys, like we're just not infrastructure ready. Like we think the league can go to 16 teams, but we want to sort of A, B, C. Yep. But the reason that they give for not expanding here is weird. It's like, well, we had a ton of interest. So let's do classic economics. Ton of interest. That's a really big demand curve, right? But we think if we wait, we'll get a higher price. Well, that makes me say, do you really have a ton of interest? Because normally when there's a ton of interest for a restricted supply asset, the price goes up. That's my economics 101, right? So to me, now, I truly believe this could not be the reason. I think it's more, this was a tough year with Corona. I bet there were buyers. I really do bet there were buyers for this. I don't think the guy was lying when he said it. I think the real reason is it was Corona. It's a bit of a mess. They had some connectivity issues. They need to work things out more. Let's give it a year, get some solid feet under us, and then go. I think that's the real reason for the league not expanding here. But I don't like this reason of like, which I feel like is more ginned up, which is, well, there were so many people who wanted to buy, but we thought if we waited, it would be worth a higher price. Like,
I mean, you see this in the startup world too. Like I get this like tale from startups as well, right? Like, well, we could have raised money last year. We had so much interest, but you know, we were holding out for a higher price,
higher valuation. Yeah.
And it's just the fact that you have to mention that we had so much interest makes me believe that they didn't, right? It's like, if you actually did, you don't have to say it. You don't have to tell us that. Right? You could just be confident in a statement saying, look, the league's on a fine course. We're going to get things in order. We're going to, you know, drive up the value of these teams, and next year we will expand. Why say, like, why add, like, it makes you seem weak when you add the, look, we had so much interest, but, you know.
Yeah, it's weird because, but it feels
used car salesman.
It does. It doesn't. The messaging here could be better for sure. But in this case, I really do believe. I don't think that chairman was lying when he said there's. I bet there are lots of people. What's who interest?
I don't think so, William. I don't think. Okay. Like here's maybe people inquired, right? Yep. I'm sure they had people inquiring. Are they legitimate buyers with $30 million ready to go, ready to burn $5 million a year? Who knows how many of them were actually qualified buyers? Like, I am assuming they got plenty of inquiries, plenty of questions, but legitimate buyers who would have seen it through to the end with the current state of the league, the current state of the economic split, the current everything. I don't know. This feels really. I don't know what's wrong with Activision Blizzard and why they can't get their messaging right, at least, right? If all of this is just bad messaging, it's an awful lot of bad messaging. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, look, I choose to believe, and you know, you can argue with me, reasonable, can disagree, but I choose to believe the other narrative, right? Which is, I really do think if they'd done how many teams are in that league now? 8, right? 12? What is 12, it? 12? I think. 12. I think it's 12, right?
Yeah.
So, I truly believe they could have sold 4 expansion slots. I truly believe that. I really do.
For sure.
I don't. Now, I buy now. Maybe there's a question of were they getting the price they wanted? Were they getting the premium they wanted from year 1 to year 2? Like maybe that, but they could have sold that. I really do think for me, it's the messaging here and not the truth. The messaging is it's weird to say we had lots of demand, but we decided not to buy. That just feels hollow. I think the truth is, like I said, they just need to work it out. They need more time. The world is weird right now. Let it roll. Let the dice roll. That's what I believe. You know what I mean?
Christopher says they counted 100 thieves 100 times.
Actually,
we had 100 buyers, guys. 100.
That is like, we need to start an esports sketch comedy show because that is a great sketch. Which is like, I don't want to brag too much, but we had the first thief, the second thief, the third thief. Those were just our first 3 investors who wanted to go in. Let me tell you about thieves 4, 5, and 6, and there were 94 more line that block. Yeah. And by the way, you're not going to believe this. We had G1 and G2, both Gs coming in. We had 9 clouds, each of which
Greg says if messaging was more focused on growing audiences, it would be a different story. Yeah. Like I'm surprised the messaging here wasn't focused on the fact that, look, I'm sure every team in Call of Duty League lost money, tons of money, but at least the YouTube audience for the finals was relatively large, right? They had a few 100,000, 200,000-300,000 for the finals.
Call of Duty League is not doing badly. Like I just want to be clear.
Hold on, let's be clear. 300,000 for your grand finals is not breaking any records. We're not talking League of Legends numbers at all, right?
That's true. League of Legends finals, 100 million. So let's be honest, right? More than most Super Bowls.
And you're talking a franchise fee higher than a League of Legends franchise fee.
That's fair. And you're also talking like just to benchmark something here. Like if we post a house tour video for OXG, it gets 50,000 views or something. So that's like hardly super compelling.
It's because you didn't spend 100 million on the house.
Well, but I guess that's true benchmark wise. But it's actually difficult to compare static YouTube views to concurrent, things.
Martin says, what happens to the league when the next COD comes out? Does it just port over to that game, looking more like a mustard than a ketchup? Oh, bringing concepts from the book. Martin gets extra points.
Oh my God!
You just made William's day.
I'm like literally
going to be happy as a clam.
Special background.
I'm going to have to deal with this William for the next 3 days.
The special background is going to say concept of the book deployed, and it's gonna look.
Martin, you know what's funny? You know what's funny today, William, in developing as we're fleshing out the concept for book 2 and some of the key themes and things like that. Like he said, the impetus for writing his book, but for writing the book of esports was mustard and ketchup. That was the core sort of thing that kicked it all off, interestingly enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like you need, somebody once told me.
But really, I'm curious if you can address this, William. Is it more a mustard than a ketchup?
Well,
COD
this
and
is
COD
why I
League. Yeah.
liked the Call of Duty League, actually, because I think they're just going to roll it over iterations of the game. So the brand Call of Duty is trying to be more of a catch up, right? Each individual game can be a mustard. But by the way, there's nothing bad with owning a mustard if the mustard cycles predictably and you own all the mustards. Like, let me give you an example, right? Like, of this, a real world example, the candy industry, right? Like, so if you notice in many countries, like, there are new flavors of candy that cycle in for popularity and go away, right? So Kit Kat's a great example. Kit Kat does like 10 custom flavors every year. Creme brulee, green tea, whatever. Some stick around, some of them don't, but there's huge churn in Kit Kat flavors, right? Nobody thinks Kit Kat is not a perennial candy bar, because the point is you would have a very bad business if I asked you to invest in the creme brulee Kit Kat flavor. That is not a good call. But investing in Kit Kat, the brand, you're solid. And so I liked the Call of Duty direction because I felt that was more the direction the league should have been in. It shouldn't have been an Overwatch league. It shouldn't have been a Call of Duty league. It should have been an Activision Blizzard league.
And it acts
That would
more
have
like a
been
catch-up, right? As a
yeah,
consequence.
and Call of Duty at least is a step in the right direction, which is it's an iterative title series, and it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like it covers multiple expressions of the game. Like, it covers battle royale, it covers squad based. Like, it seems to be a much more flexible definition, which is, again, speaks very well to the catch-up phenomenon here.
And Martin, I would say, like, every Call of Duty, none of them are ever groundbreaking. Like, they're all just very iterative. Like, the next one is going to look and feel very much like this one. Like, it's not going to be anything radically different that requires the league to change up. One thing that was interesting, William, is I thought they would move to keyboard and mouse for season 2. But I guess that's not happening either from the sounds of it.
Yeah, well, the keyboard and mouse thing doesn't surprise me too much, only because I think, one, there's some sponsorship things, and then two, I think they want to keep it as differentiated as possible from Overwatch. And I think one of the easiest ways to tell your user base that it's differentiated is like, hey, that Overwatch thing, that's the thing you play on PC or console. We're a different demographic, and that's clear even in the hardware we use. So I actually expect that will continue for a while. You know what I mean?
Christopher says, co-signing the Paul perspective, especially with less players to pay next year, books will look better. Yeah. If they don't expand and they bring in the same number of media dollars, for example, and sponsor dollars on the whole, they will look better. It could be that. It's, there's just too many disjointed stories. There's don't tell me you're growing like crazy and there's tons of interest, and then do nothing, right? And then be like, okay, we're just going to keep the status quo. Like, say, hey, we're in a period of uncertainty. The numbers are okay. We want to make sure we figured out the live stuff, which we haven't. There's so much more risk around this than Activision Blizzard is willing to communicate. That I think is what bothers me the most.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's plenty of great and totally fine business decisions for not expanding. I think you have lots of demand, but you decided not to is not the right message to put in the market. That's how I describe it.
Martin says, true, Paul, the skills between COD games, they are easily transferable. They're directly transferable. Yeah. Wish we could get regional Twitch viewership. Only guessing COD audience is primarily North America, where other esports are more Asian. Yeah, for sure. COD, and even Activision Blizzard admits this. I was listening to Pete Vlastelica, who's kind of the embattled esports guy at Activision Blizzard, who essentially has been replaced, I think, with this new MLB guy. But he was saying COD's definitely more Western audience, for sure. So, the numbers are going to be smaller as a consequence, but two orders of magnitude smaller, 3 orders of magnitude smaller.
Well, it's also a problem though, because you would hope the league would go global at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. COD skills will also always just be gun skill and map knowledge. It's 1D compared to other games today. I think that's why it appeals to an older audience. Maybe. I don't know. You think the audience is older for COD, William? I don't think COD
no, I don't
League.
think so. I think it's younger.
I think the console COD sort of demo trends younger. 4v4 instead of 5v5 next year. Well, that saves money. That's one way of of this is one way of saving dollars, William, right? Brilliant by Activision Blizzard. Let's just reduce the number of players.
Actually, it honestly does work. It's like that's going to be one of their largest expense items on the budget.
They should just keep doing it every year. The year after it's 3v3, then 2v2. Eventually, COD League is just going to be one guy, one-on-ones, a bunch of one-on-ones.
That's called Hearthstone. That works.
Let's move on.
It's just a series of corner peaks. That's all it is. Call of Duty Corner Peak Edition.
Let's touch something we almost never touch.
Okay.
Yep,
I'm ready.
Mobile gaming. Big sigh because this is a
big one. I can't believe we didn't talk about this on the podcast because this is a
huge story.
Yeah, this might be the biggest story of the week.
OutlookIndia.com. The headline is, after TikTok, India bans Chinese gaming app PUBG. The app is the fastest growing app in India. It's one of the most popular esports in gaming in general, but especially in India. And it's one of the 118 mobile bans of Chinese games that have been done by the Indian government. I'm wondering, trying to remember if there were numbers in here in terms of people. I think it's like on the order of 100 million players in India, something like that.
It's huge. I actually had to rewrite a chapter in my book because I couldn't say PUBG was a total failure because the mobile title has been so successful. Like it's arguably been like so successful that like PUBG almost wasn't a failure. I still think it was because it's not Fortnite and it could have been Fortnite, but like but this is huge. I mean, this is right. I mean, it's in the title of the article, but this is right there with TikTok. This is a pushback against Chinese developed software, plain and simple, right? For all sorts of reasons, not just security reasons. It's like, does it meet our monetization standards? Does it meet our integrity standards? Does it meet our, sales tactics and marketing standards, right? Like this is a big deal. Like this is actually governments starting to look and I know you can roll your eyes and you can say, but Japan killed.
No, you don't know what I'm going to say. You don't know.
Okay, what are you going to say? Tell me what you're going to say.
Because I actually how many times we've had on this podcast, William, where it's been like, is this our have we made it moment? Yeah. Right? Like how many times have we asked ourselves that, right? Like remember early on, like in the beginning, Drake invested in whatever and we're like, does this mean we've made it? And then Sequoia invested in whatever. We're like, does this mean we've made it? And then CAA is talking about Hollywood stars. Does this mean we've made it? Right? Like, does this mean we've made it? Sort of. And I'll tell you why. When global politics now are being brokered on game battlefields, essentially, right? Like what is allowed and not allowed to be played. When those are the right, instead of launching a missile, you're banning PUBG Mobile.
Yeah.
Like, have we made it? Is this kind of like when gaming and the games we play are an integral part of geopolitical warfare, essentially?
I mean, yes.
Right?
But by the way, you've seen this in the past with movies, right? Like there was the whole Batman had to film a whole intro sequence in China. Do you remember this? Like Batman.
Or they wouldn't allow it or something?
No. Yeah. They wouldn't allow it. They had to. So like if you watched, I think it was not Batman Begins. It was the third Batman movie. What was that called? Dark Knight Rises or something?
Yeah.
If you watch that, there was a whole additional sequence if you watched it in China that was basically Batman in China for 15 minutes to satisfy the local film portion. And it
visiting the local sites.
And it sort of didn't look this up. It's hilarious. And it sort of didn't have anything to do with the movie. And they kind of mention it offhand in the full edit. They're like, didn't you save Dr. Liang? And Batman's like, yes, I did. And then and it's like, it's sort of there. Like it's sort of part of it. But it was like, they had to do it. And so, films, content, all of this has been used. I mean, there was a thing recently about children's movies in the 38th parallel line or whatever, and how they were getting censored in China to show, a different, mark in the sea. And so content has always been, and by the way, I'm not taking a side on any of this. I'm just saying content has always been a battlefield. And, it's smart governments have always known that what people read, it has an effect. It sets a narrative. It sets a baseline tone. Games are so big right now. Of course, they're going to be a political tool. Of course. And I'm not saying rightly or wrongly. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to have a debate about politics and if it makes sense to or not. I'm just saying, like, of course it's going to happen, you know?
Martin says PUBG's massive there. Didn't Doc play with a big Indian mobile PUBG player? Yes, I think he did. I don't remember his name though.
Yeah.
I want to say it starts with an S, his gamer tag, but I don't remember. And James says games are politics. Access to their IP is in a walled garden. Developers favor certain groups over others, especially in scholastic esports. It's not just international politics. True. It's very true. It's a great point.
Very true. Great point.
Okay, let's pivot then. So we get that it's a pawn for political sort of warfare here, but does this mean this is the end for PUBG, William? Like, is this the last nail in the coffin? Because they kind of got nothing left, right?
Yeah, I mean, PUBG is not done. It's been on a downward trend. I mean, it's difficult.
Here's the question:
to say,
does PUBG get acquired now? Is this? Hold on, hear me out, right? PUBG is sort of at its lowest point potentially now. Okay.
Yep.
Does it go away? Does it die? Or does it get acquired? Or none of the above? Because I'm curious. And if it gets acquired, by who?
First of all, you're always so binary. Like, you're so binary. Like, it had 100 million users 2 weeks ago. It's not going to die.
The world in black and white, William.
It's not going to die. It's not going to die.
It's very Sith of me.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, you're 100%. It's either. You know, there were gray areas of the Force, Paul. The Force witches, they used Force lightning, but were they dark side? I don't know, Paul. Leave it up to the expanded universe.
None of our viewers are going to understand a word you're saying, but okay.
What? The Force witches of Dathomir.
Can we focus on PUBG?
Sorry.
Sammer says we made it. Sammer, I miss you. We have made it. Well, you've made it.
I just can't believe I brought up Force witches of death. But it's not gonna. I do think, though, you're insightful, which is when businesses start to trend down, and this is definitely a headwind, downtrending, whatever, right? It's a good time to reevaluate where you are in the business. If you need other strategic partners, if you need growth opportunities, sale could make sense. Certainly there are people who would want to buy the asset. The PUBG brand has value. The PUBG user base has value. PUBG has there's a lot that happens with that game. Maybe you look at it and you say, you know what? It's an amazing idea, created the battle royale genre. This brand hasn't been shepherded maybe quite the way we would have liked, you know, with a more mobile focused Korean app developer at its heart. It's time to move this big leagues. I can see a lot of people who would want to buy this. You know who the number one buyer I would say for this property is?
Who?
Electronic Arts.
Interesting.
I would go, if I were EA,
a company that has had zero clue what to do in the esports world.
Well, leave aside criticisms in their management team or not. I just have to be very direct here. I would say it's Electronic Arts because why? You need a property that can effectively counter Call of Duty. You do. Call of Duty has soaked up the Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, and Rainbow Six Siege have soaked up the tac shooter space. And for all of your competition, they are buoying their revenues. Look at any public statement from any company such as they have them and look at how large of a portion Rainbow Six Siege is.
I'm with you.
Look at that, right? You need that. You had Battlefield. It did not work. Right? Why not roll the dice on another IP? And I think there's a lot to like about the PUBG IP. It has a mature, gritty vibe. At the same time, it has comicalness. There's frying pans that block bullets and stuff in it, right? Like, I would look at that and see about rolling that. You have big in franchise user base. And you're telling me if PUBG 2 was announced to launch, published by Electronic Arts, you wouldn't pay attention? You wouldn't be like, oh my God, this could be big. PUBG 2. I loved PUBG. A lot of people love PUBG. Imagine the marketing. The granddaddy of battle royales is back. Like, it writes itself. And I would argue it's much easier to take a franchise that is beloved. I think a lot of people, nobody hates PUBG. It's not like it was a bad game. It just kind of got evolved past. It didn't die because it was not fun to play. It died because other people did its thing better. Well, perfect. There's a lot of brand equity there. And I would, rather than try to gin life into Battlefield, which just for whatever reason cannot cut it, I would argue because it's too close to Call of Duty. It's basically, it feels like a Me Too property. You never win with the store brand, you know?
But it's one of those things, William, where, like, look, Tencent bought PUBG, right?
Yep.
They brought it to China, basically. They ripped it off. There's some other version of PUBG that's played in China. Now the name's escaping me.
Oh, I have it in my book. I can't remember. Yeah. Clash
Right?
of Kings or something.
No. It's
I'll look at the book. I have the book right here.
I'm sure someone in the chat will remember the name, but they knock it off, so they don't even leverage the PUBG brand, right? The only place the PUBG brand is used and the actual game is used is outside of China. Like, what was Tencent's game there? And now that they're banned in places outside of China, like, Greg, I think Free Fire is Garena's. That's SCA.
It's
I
not
think
Free Fire.
it's not Free Fire. It's I will find it. But like, in some ways, Tencent has to sell PUBG now, right? Like, what's the play for them?
Oh, well, Tencent doesn't have to sell anything. I mean, they have enough money that they could like literally live
It's
forever.
called Game of Peace.
That's it. Game
in
of
China.
Peace. Yeah. Good game. Game of
Much
Peace,
less violent. Game of Peace.
I know. I wish I could do that. Like, it's not called World of Warcraft. It's World of Peacecraft.
Greg says Apple has been highlighting PUBG is releasing a new version at the time Fortnite is out. I mean, yeah, there's probably an opening with Fortnite being off platform, but
not gonna get filled.
Right, like,
you gotta.
The question is, does Tencent have to sell it now with India blocking it? Is there basically no value there anymore? With the connections that Tencent has in the industry with AAA titles, how the heck do they divorce themselves to their benefit and avoid the geopolitical games? Well, this is kind of the pickle that Tencent and people who play games owned by Tencent are going to have, right? Which is, if your country bans that game and you want to play that game just because it's owned by Tencent, the reality is this is only getting more complicated as Tencent buys up more and more of the major developers. FPS is saturated, Padawan. Yes and no, but there's still opportunity. I mean, they had, like I said, PUBG had 100 million players in India. So
it's a lot of players.
James says, but does PUBG get sold off and now China bans it? Again, you sell to one group and now your antagonist changes. Well, the thing is, like, they've already knocked it off for China. So the question is, can you separate those two things? They still operate Game of Peace in China, and someone else can go take PUBG and make it successful elsewhere. Because there is a brand there that's worth something. Yeah,
the brand is the best part of the property, I think. I think the PUBG brand can go a long way. I think it is. I'll go as far as say I think it is a AAA brand. I really do. It has AAA brand potential.
Esports business model, EA or Microsoft. EA, I think, is the company with the most titles that should be great esports that has done the least. So they're the biggest failure from an esports perspective for me. And if you get a chance, James, to listen to last week's episode number 94, I spend a lot of time talking about EA Esports, and the frustration is they have all the IP, right? They have Apex, they have FIFA, they have
so many good ones.
They have so many good ones that should be great esports, and I just think they fundamentally don't understand how to build it
Battlefield, Titanfall, Battlefront, and they have all the good entertainment licenses too. They have Star Wars.
Yeah.
How much do you want a Star Wars esport? I want that a lot. I'm the guy who said four switches of Dathomir. I would love a Star Wars esport. That's all I'm waiting for.
Martin says PUBG 2 by EA. Oh boy, can't wait for them to ignore the esports scene like Apex.
That's not true. They would launch it with a.
They would have one random tournament for like a couple $100,000 prize, and then you would never hear from it ever again. That's the EA way. Does Tencent really care? They have so many tentacles. Yeah, I think they care. Look, William and I think agree that they're the smartest people in the room right now in the gaming space. And so whatever they do with PUBG, I have to believe it's going to be very strategic if they do make some kind of move.
Yeah, and
I doubt they just sit on it, even if they have 10 million other tentacles.
And they're smart enough to realize this is a different category of risk. This is not the title is performing badly because it's because it had a weak patch, because it's not fun to play anymore, because this is an existential risk because it's affecting one game now. If it could continue to affect a lot of games, you would care about this a lot if you were in charge of that business. You'd be very concerned. You would say, what's our political risk mitigation strategy? What's our diversification strategy? Do we have a divestment strategy we need to be getting ready just in case? Like you'd care about that a lot. I mean, I hope they would, right?
The Indian market will find a way to get the game back on mobile, Sammer says. Maybe. I mean, there's always ways around blocks and bans and things like that. But you're not going to get, 100 million players back playing legitimately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. This was interesting, guys. Let's move on from this. Do we want to stay on esports, William? I mean, we want to talk about something a bit different, like not pure. You want to talk about NVIDIA?
Yeah, I do want to talk about NVIDIA. Big time.
James says, I forgot all the good stuff EA has because it's all there, but none of it done well. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, James, if you've listened to the podcast enough, like I spent so much time ragging on Activision Blizzard and how they failed on the esports front with their franchise leagues and how I think, they're sort of all doomed to fail. But there are companies then you see like Ubisoft with Rainbow Six, and then you have like Rocket League, which I think are doing it super well, right? And most people operating in those places are actually profitable and managing to build sustainable teams and things like that. But EA, like, it seems to get this free pass. No one talks about them because they do nothing. Like, there's almost nothing to criticize because they've done nothing, even though they have all these assets.
I don't know. I just.
Right, it's kind of genius. They do nothing, so no one can criticize them.
Or though, to be fair to EA,
I am being fair to EA, William.
Okay,
Don't imply I'm not being fair.
Yeah, but my job is to be the positive, happy one here. To be fair, I could also make an argument that over the course of the video game evolution industry, we have had a massive conflation between publishing and developing games. It used to be they were different. It used to be someone would go and develop the game, and then they would go to a publisher and they'd say, help, I need to make the box copy. I need to get it to a store. and it was a very different thing. Publishers were almost like distributors, just like you might make a sweater, but back in the day, you weren't going to be the person who drove around and shipped the sweater to all you went to a distributor. Publishers. Now, because of the rise of the celebrity, I'd argue because of the rise of the celebrity hybrids like Blizzard itself, right? We conflate publishing and developing. And in many cases, it's totally fine to do so because they're basically one and the same, right? But you could argue in EA's favor, they are still on the old publisher developer model. They still want to be this brand at the top that is responsible for the marketing and the advertising and the distribution. And they want to have these studios at the bottom that are in charge of making the games. And it's doing them a disservice now in esports because when you have something like that where esports is marketing, but it's also core to the game experience, they're lost. They don't know where to put it, right? And that's a much more favorable light to put it in. It's just they're on a different business model. They're still on this older structure. So I don't know.
It's just unfortunate. The gamer and business person in me wants those games to be great esports and competitive esports.
And they're
like, look, I
games.
love Apex. It's the best game still out there today, if you ask me. I love Battlefield. I still play it in spite of all the mess.
Apex is brilliant. Apex is brilliant. They have the thing, and that's what I mean though, is if you look at my publisher developer review, they have great developers who make great games. That's the job of a developer. And I think as a publisher, they do a great job marketing the games. About Battlefield. About, the
Apex, last Battlefields, like Battlefield 5's launch was kind of a fiasco. There's bad management there. There really is. You can't deny it because the product's good. The products are good.
It is a good product,
right?
They have good products.
It's being all the opportunities are being squandered. Let's talk about a company with great products and great management, which sometimes we don't. We can be very critical.
The Business of Esports.
Yeah, that is obvious. But let's talk about NVIDIA. My favorite company in the entire gaming industry. So this is from Yahoo. This week was my Christmas, basically, because, and the title here sums it up. NVIDIA's latest chips are a literal game changer. So on Tuesday, they announced their latest graphics cards. the power, the graphics in modern games. It's like this huge generational leap, and the prices sort of have come down in some sense, like in terms of price for performance. And I love this because this is what moves the industry forward more than just about anything else, William. And I love this because it pushes us away from, more slot machine kind of games to now you have hardware where you can build worlds. Let's see what you can go do with it. Is NVIDIA possibly the greatest gaming investment of the last 10, 15 years? Like,
I mean, it's difficult to say because I think if you've done very well if you put your money in anything, in gaming, pretty much anything, right? Even as much as we hate, they're good. I think that NVIDIA continues to be the brand more than anything else in the industry that to me stands for innovation and technical innovation, right? Like if you were going to say, and I'm not criticizing these brands, but does Intel stand for technical innovation? I'm not saying they don't have great technology and smart architectures. And my i7 was a lot better than my i5, right? But as a gamer, when I feel like I can do more, it's when I plug in my new, graphics card, right? That's really been what's driven the. And to be fair, they have made big innovations, constant innovations on the graphics card side.
Chris brings up a great point here, which I actually was going to mention. Low prices for great hardware only shows how big this market has grown, and the hardcore scene will invest $1,500 for an elite piece of hardware. So the top of the line card that they announced was $1,500, and this thing's a beast. Like we're talking performance at levels that obviously have never been seen, and huge amounts of memory, and like just ridiculous specs. Yeah, but for and I think more and more, like a number that people would have scoffed at 5 years ago, even $1,500 for a top of the line graphics card, where if you look at the stats from the Corsair IPO filing from their S1, where they were saying like 29% of the market spends more than $1,800 on their gaming PC, like some very large percentage of the market, almost a third of the market spends multiple thousands of dollars on their gaming PC.
That's actually crazy because that's a pretty high-end PC at that price. But if you're not buying a laptop, if you're buying a desktop, that's like a very good desktop.
Oh, it means you can almost put a $1,500 graphics card in there, right? Like,
yeah, you can. That's
right,
true. Reuse your motherboard from the last setup. You can basically get there.
But I'm seeing this sort of. I see the resurgence of PC gaming. Like when you see hardware like this, everyone was talking about the new console cycle being potentially the death of PC gaming because they're super fast and they're all this like great storage innovation and they load levels seamlessly, and you were going to get graphics capabilities that were crazy. And then NVIDIA kind of drops this and is like, wait a second, like hold my beer, right? And it's like it's the hold my beer meme, but for GPUs.
Okay, well, the only thing is I have trouble talking about this space, and I'll be honest, because like it's always tough when what they've made is a canvas, right? Like it's very easy for me, or it's not easy, but like I think I'm better at talking about paintings, right? And being like, that painting's good for these reasons, that painting is not good for these reasons. What graphics cards are, they're the canvas that everything else is painted on, right? And it's very hard for me when a canvas gets bigger, wider, better textured. Like, I notice all those things. I appreciate them. But it's very hard for me to really fully get the ramifications until somebody paints on the canvas. And the big thing for me is going to be, okay, what is the next game that I need this for? And then I'm going to be able to say, aha, that's why this was such a big step forward. Because it's tough for, and maybe you're better at it, Paul, but it's tough for me. I'm waiting for the crisis that needs the new cards.
Well, there's a chicken and egg discussion to be had here, right? Like, who moves the industry forward? Is it NVIDIA or is it the game publishers? Really, when you think about innovation, who's pushing the envelope? Who's getting us those next gen games, next gen experiences? Like, right? If we track, fast forward 30 years, and now you're the historian, and we've all got holodecks, right?
Yeah.
And now you're looking back and you're going, okay, what were the key drivers to get us to the holodecks?
That's me. What were the key drivers to get us to the holodecks?
You're the driver?
No, I'm just asking. I'm saying like that. I'm asking the question.
No,
That's me.
right?
What were the key drivers? Yeah.
What were those moments? Are we looking at hardware innovation or are we looking at games? What would the historian look at?
Well, it's, I know you want to say hardware. I know you want to say
That's my
hardware.
feeling. Because
Right.
my feeling is the hardware is what pushes this all forward.
And it's definitely true that hardware is the obvious gate, because I can have it's true that I've lived in periods where people wanted to make games and they couldn't because the hardware wasn't ready for them. Like literally, like you can see, like that was one thing I had fun researching the book. Like you can see in the early like MUDs and early online stuff, like people knew what they wanted to make. They wanted to make Dungeons and Dragons Online. No one had any doubt that that was what they were going to go do. They just didn't have the hardware to do it. So they were stuck cutting corners and, well, it's flat. And then, well, you can only collect this. And like, but it was obvious they wanted to make D&D Online. They were just doing the best they could with the medium they had at the time. But I do think it's fair to say that software can and does encourage and push the hardware development forward. Because I think software can sometimes point to directions to improve, areas for growth, areas. And a good example of this I talk about is just massive multiplayer games, right? Like I think in part, honestly, like there was a reason Doom Deathmatch was like 8 people, right? Like you just couldn't get more people on Dwango or whatever it was to make it work. There was a hard limit. Now, I think partly why Battle Royale suddenly blew up is people realized they could do, and the thing I'm waiting for is the 1,000-person games, the 10,000-person games.
But it requires hardware innovation more than anything, right? But everyone's so focused on the social networks, right, and the antitrust sort of issues there. My fear as a gamer and someone who has real conviction around that holodeck future, right? My biggest fear is that NVIDIA ends up with no competition. Then who pushes them? How does the industry move forward with NVIDIA left to their own devices? Because it's getting to the point where they're so far ahead of anyone else. And yes, they continue to put out faster.
Well, that is a separate concern, is because you do want competition can be driven by supplier demand and competitor demand, or buyer demand and competitor demand. And
or
it is
competitive
true
pressure,
that,
at least.
And I actually think in an odd way, the competition is particularly important for chips because it drives the price down. And let's be honest, so much of what gates game development today is consoles. We don't like to talk about it, but the reality is most things have to be playable on a PlayStation 5, on an Xbox, whatever the number is now, 720, I don't know, right? And the competition is very important for getting better chips in those consoles, which is, I think, really the big gate on games today and how ambitious they can be. And so that does worry me a lot, because you might see innovation on the high end continue because they're a great company there, but you won't see that translate into a price decrease, and that will hold the industry back.
Agreed. And that's a great transition to Greg's question, which is, any thoughts on Intel's new processor? Claims 2 times faster gaming. You're talking about Tiger Lake, their mobile processor, which is like paired to what they call their XE new integrated graphics engine. Intel is a company that's been lost for like the last decade, frankly, because they've had no competition, literally zero. They were the dominant CPU chip maker for the last 10 years.
Go back to their stock in that image. Look at what their stock has done over the last 10 years. Check that out in your article. I noticed that. I was like,
yeah. So Intel is this.
Well, it's not the last 10 years. Last year.
Is this gray line?
Yeah.
And then you've got AMD and NVIDIA. And the reality is what has changed. So for 10 years, Intel did nothing, right? 2 cores and 4 core CPUs were the norm. And they had no interest in sort of expanding beyond that. AMD wasn't a threat. No one was really a threat. They didn't really play in the graphics side, so NVIDIA was not even a competitor. What has changed massively on the hardware side in the last 2 years is AMD became a serious competitive threat to Intel on the chip side. where today AMD's Ryzen CPUs, their 3000 series CPUs on the desktop are better than Intel CPUs. In the data center are better than Intel CPUs. In mobile, they're better than Intel CPUs. So all the key strongholds for Intel, desktop, mobile, and data center, AMD has been kicking their ass. And so only now is Intel sort of trying to get their act into gear here and get the machines working again. But this is a company that's been stale for so long, complacent for so long. You can't just move that overnight. I mean, they're way behind. They're 2 years now, probably a year and a half behind AMD from a technology perspective. So the new Tiger Lake CPUs for mobile will catch them up a bit, but they're losing on so many fronts right now. Look, NVIDIA has higher market share than Intel today. Right? Would have thought, like, rinky-dink NVIDIA making graphics cards for some enthusiasts 15 years ago would now be a semiconductor chip company bigger than Intel from a market cap perspective. It's quite an amazing story.
It's crazy.
Christopher says hardware, 8K capability, sell OLED and PC gaming in a family's living room versus, yeah, I agree. Hardware pushes things forward. Hey guys, stumbled upon your podcast in the past month and have become a huge fan. Wondering if you could do a piece about opportunities in the esports gaming space for people outside the industry. I'm curious what you mean specifically by that. Like job opportunities, or Bodrich would love just some clarification, but sounds interesting. Professor has a point. Pokemon Go is the only reason AR is still discussed. It's kind of true.
No, I mean but I mean, like, quite seriously, like, that is
the whole Magic Leap thing was like a big sort of
you made
disaster.
The argument better than I could, and I actually really appreciate that. That's exactly the point I was trying to lead. Is that's like software pointing for an area for hardware to innovate. Very, very, very better argument than I made.
Yes, but had Magic Leap's hardware lived up to the expectations and what the promises were, AR might have made some inroads, I would argue. I don't know if you guys are aware of Magic Leap, worth checking out. They raised $1 zillion in venture capital and have gone nowhere with it. Matt Gill says hardware and software, but don't forget about connectivity. Yeah, you're 100% right. So not just that, but like availability of high-speed connectivity, because, in New York, we're fine here, but if you're in a more rural area, it's a much, much, much bigger problem. Let's move on, William.
Do it.
So much I want to cover today, but I know we only have time for a couple more. Do we talk about Bitcraft, or do you want to talk about Fortnite esports? And then I've got one special for you.
They are.
Bitcraft raising their $165 million fund.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Fortnite esports coming to an end.
Talk about Fortnite esports coming to an end. That's like more. I don't know. Both are good. I mean, look, on the Bitcraft thing, I think it's quicker. I think actually, like, huge congrats to them. That is a massive fund.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Like,
huge
congrats.
Somewhat of a disingenuous announcement, I would say, or not disingenuous, just kind of misleading, because the reality is, like, they're saying this is their fund one, right? So the articles from ESPN, it's Bitcraft Ventures announces close of $165 million venture fund. It implies that they have $165 million now of capital to go deploy, which I don't think is the case, right? I think what's been happening is they've been raising money as they've been deploying capital, as they've been making investments, and now they hit a big number. And so this is kind of the good number to announce as your fund one, and it sort of puts a stake in the ground. Like, our fund one was 165 million, even though we've been raising it for the last 3 years.
But also they have a credible claim to 165 million. Like, you can argue how it adds up, but I just think this is one of those moments where you have to say to people, like, and I know we've been critical of how they deployed the capital and some of them is, you have to say good job. Like, they raised
great job on raising the money.
Great job.
Great job. It's on the whole good for the industry. Like, more money is always going to be good.
Great,
right?
For the industry, yeah.
But I think Bitcraft becomes a signal for the industry of overpaid deals and sort of too much money into deals. I think the same way Sequoia is a signal or Y Combinator is a signal sort of in traditional tech circles. You know, if Sequoia is putting money, it's a good deal. Bitcraft, I think, becomes the symbol for overpaying for deals and too much money going into deals. I just don't see where 165 million goes, William. Look, and we didn't talk about it last week on the live stream, but I really liked March Capital raising 60 million, another venture fund in the space.
That's true. They were good.
The reason I loved it is their thesis is simple. We're only investing in game publishers.
Yeah.
Right? And that I have much more conviction and faith in than the kind of the random hodgepodge Bitcraft has put together.
Very clean. I agree. Very clean.
But anyways, that was a quick one. Greg says, just read investors in Magic Leap have marked down their stakes in the Trouble augmented reality startup by 93% on average between the start of the year and the end of June. Yeah, it was it's actually an interesting story to read about. Total disaster. Literally, I think $500-600 million went into the business, something crazy like that.
Which is sad because Magic Leap should have
it was promising, incredible experience, dude, AR experience, right?
I remember, by the way, raising money against Magic Leap because I think when they were doing some of their earlier rounds, I was raising for Gamer Sensei, and I remember Magic Leap was the startup you wanted to be. They had really cool tech, they were all, and honestly, I wanted it to work. It's a way
we all wanted it to work.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And it should work. If Elon Musk can embed a little disc into a pig and do why can't a laser beam to my eye and project the image? I'm sorry, it should work. Magic Leap is one. I really mean it. Yes, it was a big failure. Yes, probably things could have done differently. You can't fault the people who invested in that one. I don't think the concept was so good. And they were one of the few people out there with that approach. There were a lot of people put this big clunky thing on the headset. And it's a great pitch. Do you want to wear this? No. Magic Leap. You can't fault them. I think it sucks they couldn't get the tech to work. And I still, someone will. Someone will. I'm telling you right now, someone will. It's not going to be Magic Leap, but it'll be, Palmer Lucky 2, Lucky Palmer. It'll be that. Someone's going to figure it out because it is a good idea. It's doable and it's a better product. The worst thing about VR is the headset. Please get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't think AR is the answer, and that's a whole different discussion. I think AR's time has come and gone, and VR is the big, the sort of the daddy that replaces it. Matt Gill agreed. I think if Starlink does well in the next 4 years, they could, to a large degree, remove geographical obstacles in competitive gaming. Yeah, I mean, connectivity, again, high-speed connectivity, Australia can only dream of this. It's such an important part of the whole experience. So, William, I've got one story left.
Yep.
And then I've got a little fun thing for you and a little fun thing for me, and then we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
So the last story, guys, that I wanted to talk about, and it's more just, the usual Paul wants to pat himself on the back kind of moment. I think we've all become accustomed to this. William, this is your favorite kind of story.
My favorite.
Look at the headline. Okay. Reaction? Do I even need to introduce this?
Well, I mean, my reaction, Paul, is who spelled esports that way? That's my first reaction.
Okay, well, forget the spelling for a second. Okay. So sportskeeda.com says, is Fortnite esports coming to an end? And they make the case that content creators have stopped playing the game, and Fortnite has become more of a money-making machine than an all-round competitive game. And that essentially they haven't announced anything for the competitive scene, and it's all just basically coming to an end. It's weird because I could have swore there's this guy who said this 2 years ago.
Okay.
And in fact, wrote a blog post about it. I'm pretty sure.
And there's this saying, rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. These guys, were they dialing back their commitment to esports? 100%. From where they were with the World Cup to where they are, in that New Jersey, New York area to where they are now, they have shifted the dial back 100%. It's still, last I checked, it's still a multiplayer competitive game with a high skill threshold.
You think also with all the fuss around iOS that this is not now kind of the end of the road for Fortnite as an esport, as a proper pros on a stage competing against each other. So you're saying you know, owner of Oxygen Esports would sign a Fortnite team tomorrow?
Yeah, I would. Because the game is, this comes back to this, just apart from anything else, first of all, I actually think it's a very good game. And I think skill matters a lot. And I think it requires unique skills and reaches a broad audience that isn't fully served today, right? By other titles. But I also think it's too big of a game to not have a competitive scene.
No, there's no too big to fail kind of things in esports.
No, there is. No. There is, Paul. Because what this article might say, which might be true, is this the end of why am I blanking on the name of the publisher who does Fortnite? Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. Epic, yeah. Is this the end of Epic supported Fortnite scene? Because you are telling me the minute Epic says they're not going to do it, ESL's not calling them. I'm saying, hey, like throw some Fortnite tournament. I think there'd be a great DreamHack. Hey, there'd be a great DreamHack. Let's do Fortnite Malmo.
I don't think they would. I don't think they would.
If they won't, I am picking up the phone and doing that. Okay. It's too big of a game. It's too, and yeah, you can knock all you want for it's not balanced. It's too casual. Blah blah blah. At the end of the day,
the kids aren't playing it.
What?
The kids, they're not playing it.
Oh my god, the kids are playing Fortnite, Paul. They're playing Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, Fall Guys.
I think the iOS mobile thing really hurt. I think a lot of the player base had moved more to mobile. Like the real bread and butter money making Fortnite machine had moved to mobile, is my sense.
Well, counterpoint, can I not then make the argument that, okay, you had mobile, which skewed your game fast casual. That disappeared. What's all you got left strategy?
Is the hardcore. Yeah, potentially you go after the really, but they won't do that.
I will win this better. All day. All right, Paul, let's call it September 2nd.
This was a bit of a win. I'm 2 years out from my prophecy, just FYI. 2 years ago, I wrote that blog post. I don't know. I'm just,
It's not. I love it. I love Fortnite. I'm so high on Fortnite. I'm telling you, don't. And by the way, don't what's
Gabe's got my back here. He says, I stopped playing competitive Fortnite 8 months ago. It just got progressively worse and worse. Sad to see the devs ruin the game. See, that's the feeling.
All right.
You got to listen to the people, William. You got to listen to the people.
I love you, Gabe. I think you're, I'm sure the game is, but I don't buy it. Yeah.
Army Pathfinder says, do you think they paused it due to the raise and they're going to turn it back on again? To the raise? What do you mean? What raise?
Their private financing. They did the big capital round. No, I don't think it's that, Army.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have done that. And the money has long since been raised. So if Overwatch is betting on Overwatch 2, imagine the impact of a true Fortnite sequel. It will be like Street Fighter 4 resurging the fighting games. So that I buy more as a play. Okay. I think they could try that.
I don't.
But I don't think it fixes the problems with the competitive scene. I don't know.
I don't know. I would really like to see a developer. I'll close it. This is going to sound really arrogant. This is going to sound, I shouldn't say it. It sounds arrogant. I wish a publisher would read the Book of Esports and look at some of the thinking around the need to tie the game development to the esports scene, the monetization from the games, the esports scene in a more intimately thought out way. Because I think so many of these problems publishers end up in is because they're developed to be great games. And then the esports stuff is back channel them at the end. And I think the same is true. I think it's very true for Fortnite. It didn't even start life as a MOBA, as a battle royale, sorry. But I don't know. I'll also say that nothing, in my mind, the fighting game scene is dead and nothing will resurge it until Street Fighter 4th Strike. That's all I care about.
Interesting take. But you kind of proved my point that it's dead and they should read your book is the only way to actually revive it. Army Pathfinder, that's from a bit earlier. They had already that fundraising is closed. They're not the turning it back on is not up to Epic either. It's been shut off from iOS because of the ongoing dispute between Epic and Apple. So Apple has actually has banned Fortnite from iOS devices.
Yeah.
And there's literally nothing Epic can do about it now except beg for forgiveness, I guess, at this point, or continue paying their lawyers lots of money. Christopher says, "Oh, a Third Strike fan, respect."
It's interesting. Do you think their gamble has gone against them? You know what I mean? Like,
I called it from the beginning. I'm going to say again, it's not. I have this crystal ball, but I told you this was not going to be easy street for Epic, and that they were in the wrong here. They are in the wrong here.
All right. Well, I'm on Epic's side, so I'm not really, but for the sake of this live stream, I am. So
okay, here's the fun thing for you, William.
And I am a huge Third Strike fan, Christopher. Thank you for noticing. Huge Third Strike, greatest fighting game ever made.
Can you get ready to really geek out on something that I think you're passionate about?
I'm doing the yin combo right now, but yeah, what is it?
You're so weird. I love you so much.
This is combo.
Right. No one got that, but
Canadian
except Christopher.
Combo. This is Canadian combo. Yeah. Okay.
This is from a16z.com. For those who don't know that's the blog of Andreessen Horowitz, one of the largest venture capital funds on the planet, and I think one of the smartest.
Yeah.
And two of their partners, I guess, wrote this great long dissertation on the digital future of tabletop games. Okay. And without going into too much detail, and I highly recommend, I'll even post it. I'll even post it for people to go check out. I know it can't post on LinkedIn, unfortunately, but on Twitter and YouTube, it posts fine. Without going too much into it, William, I just want to highlight the subheadings, okay? And because I think you've got interesting views on tabletop gaming going digital. Live streaming will be the best instruction manual. So this is one of their key points, okay? Gameplay will be powered by players, not parts. And audio will drive continuous play and engagement. Network effects will accelerate in tabletop games. And then they talk a little bit about the next generation of tabletop games. So I'm curious just your thoughts in general, because it's not something we talk about often. I know it's something you're particularly personally passionate about. But how do you feel about tabletop games going digital, entering into that esports world, into that gaming realm in general?
So it's hard for me because I will call myself out that I feel like I'm lost on the trend here. So for example, like, full disclosure, I have a Dungeons and Dragons group. I play Dungeons and Dragons. It's a shocker. I know. Like,
everyone's
with a
surprised.
face like this, and he plays D&D, right?
Yeah.
But when the COVID crisis hit, my D&D group moved to online sessions, and I did not do it. I did not get the appeal at all. I didn't. I said, look, I'm just going to play a video game, guys. Like, I'm sorry. I'll play video games with you, but like, the fun for me of Dungeons and Dragons is the socialization factor, and I didn't feel it online through a web camera the same way I felt it at a dining room table, you know? So I think that being said, every single one of my friends, even in other is doing this. It's a big thing. They're using all the digital tools, Basilisk and Cockatrice and DM Dungeon Tool Builder, so I am off trend here. I know that I am not where the market is, right? I just know I'm not. I'm behind. But
Shroud live streamed him playing tabletop games like 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Which was like, I've never seen that ever. A streamer that big with cameras on his dining room table showing him playing tabletop game with friends.
Oh my God. Paul, do you want to live stream Dwarven Forge? Because I might be the opportunity.
Finish your thought on this.
Okay, anyway. I feel like it's a misunderstanding of what's really going. It's like a misunderstanding because, like, what is it about the tabletop games that makes them a unique category? You can replicate them entirely digitally, right? I think the difference and why you're seeing them explode as a content segment is because tabletop games for a long time have not been about the rules. Because you can get better, more accurate, instantaneous rule simulation digitally. If I just want to do a classic hack and slash in D&D, I'm way better playing a
RPG Online. They've been about social interaction. That's the niche that all the top, and I am a big board game guy. I love board games. I play them all the time. I worked at Hasbro making board games. Like I've like done board game design. I know it very well, right? It's the social interaction that matters. And that's why it's going so well to live stream, because at the end of the day, when you're watching Dr. Disrespect, yeah, you're watching him for Call of Duty, but you're also watching him for the doc, right? And these games have emphasized their social component more than their rules component. And that's what's making them so appealing, because if it's people you like, you're going to get more of them than you would watching them zone out and do sniping in Call of Duty. And so I don't see, tabletop is not a category of game. It's just not. It's not. It's like, it could be a digital game. It could. It's just they are the only reason why they're viewed as distinct today is because they have physical parts, which you do not need to have the same experience. And they have more of an emphasis on competition and success through social play. And I hope that is what drives games as a whole forward, because I love that. I love human interaction. So there you go.
What do you think's the play for Andreessen Horowitz, William? Why do you think they're writing about this? Yeah, this is a venture capital firm managing, I don't know, billions, 4 billion, 5 billion, something like that, like some obscene amount of capital to do early stage investing.
Well,
like why would they be writing about tabletop games going digital? What's the play there, you think?
That's a really interesting question. It's making me think I should start a tabletop games business.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I know, right? Like I'd like to get that A16Z money. Yeah, I'll give them a call. Hey, I've got some.
Puts out a blog post. You're like,
yeah, just call them up and be like, I've always wanted that. There's the magic letters. It's actually a really interesting question. I don't know, because I can't see it as a huge market. I mean, it's a big market. I can't see it as a market that's large enough yet for them to want. Maybe it's a content creation angle. Maybe it is. Maybe it's they look smart, because it is a very nuanced understanding of what's happening in the game space to call this out. But like, what is it? Is there? Because I don't see them investing in some big tabletop game startup, right? Like I know the economics of tabletop games. They're not A16Z economics, right?
Even, I'm not sure what the play is.
Yeah.
Sammer says virtual stock ticker, Paul. A little bit of an inside joke. The world's not ready for virtual stock ticker, Sammer. This is it's too great of a board game. If anyone's ever played stock ticker, it's the greatest board game ever made. What about MTG Arena? I think it's a great way to adapt the game. Meaning take a originally paper game, make it digital, and then adapt it back to to tabletop.
Yeah, or what they did, what Magic Arena did, is it's a very good interpretation of a physical rule set digitally.
But I never understood, because there are people who stream them playing paper Magic.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, there are,
with a camera, and I'm like, why not just stream you playing digital Magic? Like, I never really got that.
I can't answer that, but that's a nuanced question. But a lot of it has to do with format legality. You just don't have all the cards legal online. Magic's been around for a long time. And then there's nostalgia. It's like, what's a good example? Why drive a classic car? You know, like there's magic to the older cards, particularly if you grew up with them, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'm really curious. What is the venture play here? Is the only thing I can think is are they going to invest in one of the platforms that takes tabletop games and digitizes them? Because there are those platforms that are out there, but they're not like sophisticated tech. It's not hard to replicate a tabletop game, because you can replicate it with tabletop components.
And it has to have software that's like uses image recognition, and stuff like that. So you can automatically digitize an in process kind of tabletop game. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. That's all I can say. Maybe. I don't know. I'm puzzled by this one. This is why A16Z is smart, though, because maybe they see something that whatever they're seeing here, it is not immediately obvious for a flippant observation by me.
But worth thinking about.
It's going to keep me up at night. I guarantee you because this is an area near and dear to my heart. You know, I love it. I mean, if I took the green screen down, you would only see tabletop stuff behind me.
Matt says, I think that they understand young kids don't really want tabletop games. They didn't grow up with board games like we did. They don't feel the fondness of these games, like the nostalgia you feel. Yeah. So they're maybe trying to figure out how to bring that to them, or replicated in some way. Again, it's not clear what the play is and what exactly they want to accomplish. But let's finish on something.
Wish they'd say it. That's why we're investing in,
silly for me, because we did tabletop games for William, and we have to do sneakers for me, right? Makes sense. League of Legends. This is from sneakernews.com. Enlists Jordan Brand for a 2020 World Championship inspired Air Jordan 1 Zoom. And here it is, folks, in all its glory, with I guess some like purplish shading. Everyone watching, who's going to buy this sneaker? William, you buying this?
Actually, Paul, that's the first sneaker I've ever kind of thought I wanted. It's pretty cool. No, because it's cool. Like, I know Air Jordans are a thing. Like, the first crossover with League of Legends, that feels pretty dope. I'm not going to lie.
So you like this?
I like this a lot. It
says, ornate like that of the #1 prize. The offering embellishes with a number of luxurious and colorful accents. Its base, though deceptively neutral, seems to bear a slight texture that contrasts the iridescent overlays adjacent. Whoever wrote this copy is better than the sneaker designer.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, somebody got a thesaurus and really like ramped this up. Like, it's also, I don't think quite right.
I would not buy this, just FYI.
Wait, why not?
It's too simple for me. It's too plain. I like flashier than this.
Where is League? Where does it say League on it? I don't even see
it. Doesn't. It says Air Jordan here. I don't know where exactly the League flourishes are, but this is about as subdued as we've seen of a collaboration. I think you'd agree.
Yeah. I agree. That's surprisingly bland. Well, sorry, it's subdued.
Like, there's this other company I wanted to mention it in kind of the same vein. This RTFKT sneakers, where fashion meets AR plus gaming. Like, they just tried to squeeze as many, buzzwords into the title as possible. But like, I looked at these and I'm like, well, I don't really get the gaming connection here either. Like, okay, that's a skull and like bones and things.
Oh, Paul.
Like, this is gamery, I guess, but who would ever wear this?
I mean,
I like ugly sneakers. Like, don't get me wrong. I have as much bedazzled you can,
apparently Travis Scott would wear those. I don't know. Those are, I don't.
It's like generic Paul, game inspired too. It's not even like specific.
You're talking to somebody wearing a Friday Night Lights t-shirt right now. I mean, I'm not the pinnacle of fashion. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I can't follow you down there. If it was first edition Dungeons and Dragons books, I can help you. But
all right, let's wrap up with this. Our usual segment that we close every week's live stream with. It's what the people wait for. No, I'm just kidding. It's just fun. We like to do it at the end. What are we playing this week? William, go ahead. And we always love people listening, watching to tell us what they're playing this week too.
I mean, so many games, but really just 2 games. One is Death Stranding. Did a little bit of Death Stranding. Finally getting into that with the PC launch, which is like also old, but getting into that. And then Here's the Storm. I love it. My play group's really into it right now. We're crushing it, winning a lot of games. I'm grinding my heroes. I'm gonna go pro. I'm telling you right now. This is my one moment, Paul, to hit it the big time. So,
but hold on. Can I talk about the video you sent me?
Oh, yeah, sure. You can talk about it. Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't sure. Is it top secret or?
I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do with it. But basically, tell people about it. Whatever. Tell people about it. Yeah.
I just hold on. Actually, I don't know if 1 second. I don't know if I can actually
the highlight video that I made of my Heroes of the Storm play, or that the Oxygen guys made for me, I should say.
So William is so confident in his Heroes of the Storm career. Hang on, I'm gonna see if I can pull this up here. There's in fact, so this is your gamer tag, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right. That's the gamer tag. Yep.
Announcing Oxygen Esports' newest pro.
Yep. This was a joke. Yeah, this was a joke video that was.
No, this is not a joke. Don't tell them it's a joke. But I think the first 3 minutes is you getting killed, right? Pretty much.
It's pretty bad.
Okay.
Pretty bad. We should share the video at some point. I should see if I can get permission to share it, because it was a really cute thing that they made, because they know that I love Heroes of the Storm, and they thought that I should somehow be praised. So they were like, "We got all your greatest plays," and I was like, "Thanks so much, really?" And they're like, "Yeah, check it out." And I was so psyched, and then I was like, "Oh no." Yeah.
Army Pathfinder says, I know Paul is playing Fall Guys secretly. No, I'm not. I told you I got my win on my second try, and I retired from Fall Guys. I hung the controller up, which is like the second time in the last 25 years I've held a controller, and said, that's it. Like, I called it a day. I literally had to dust the controller off. You know, I had to open the chest and find it. And Martin says Pokemon Emerald on Game Boy Advance taking a nostalgia trip. That's a pretty good nostalgia trip.
Yeah, Emerald.
Gabe says Valorant and Pokemon Go to get me out of the house. I feel like it's not the first time I'm hearing somewhat of a Pokemon Go resurgence as a consequence of COVID. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. It's a good space. I like it. I just wish it was a better game.
Yeah. What am I playing this week? I'm playing PowerPoint. Does PowerPoint count? That's all I've been. Feels like that's all I've been doing. No, I'm playing a little bit of the new Apex season, obviously. What did I play this week? A little bit of Apex. I played like 2 rounds of Valorant, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Magic sent me. So a friend of mine sent me this article, and it was about a tournament coming up. Hang on, I'll find it. And it's called. It was called the Knights. So the Pittsburgh Knights are holding a tournament called the Boomer Bowl. and it's a Valorant tournament only for boomers. And so I told Magix, I said, so what do they consider boomers? Like what, 50 plus something? I'm like, I'm not a boomer, but I'm not a baby boomer.
Yeah,
I'm old, but I'm not a baby boomer. And no, it's 28 plus is the age, is the boomer bowl. The Boomer Bowl minimum age is 28. So if you're 28 or older, you are now a boomer.
I just missed the cutoff, Paul. Next year I'll be able to play.
Okay, I wasn't going to invite you on the team anyways.
You were. You saw my who's the healer? Sage. You saw my Sage play. I'm really good at healing people. I always hit the heals. 100%.
I'm not going to play Valorant. I don't like it that much, but I did for the sake of
quite like
the Boomer Bowl. I tried it a couple of times. I played it a couple of times. Bodrich says, "WoW Classic, back down memory lane." I'm curious how AQ40 is, Bodrich, because I think that's the current state of WoW Classic, right? AQ40. Everyone's doing.
Oh, Encourage. I loved that.
Encourage.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Encourage was the worst of all the expansions in my mind, I think.
It's the worst.
Nexramus was the best. Like the last one before Burning Crusade.
I just think they kind of killed the premise, because vanilla was where it was at. Like, don't go forward. Like, I'm sorry, but like I know you wanted.
So many times you can run Molten Core, William. Like after the 12th Molten Core raid, when
I would have diverged. I would have diverged the past. I would have had it. I would have remixed the new stuff. I would have, because the premise, like, they changed so much. I would have had like a couple ground rules, like the talent system never changes from vanilla. I would have had ground rules like that. I don't know. There's more to do.
Army Pathfinder says you should turn one of these into Among Us with the viewers. That's actually a really good idea. Watching XQC play Among Us is some of the most good Twitch entertainment I've seen in the last while. I don't know if you watched any of this, William.
No.
Really good, really entertaining. Among Us is like, have you seen the game?
Of course. Oh my God, of course.
Yeah. Very. I find it very entertaining. On that note, guys, unless anyone else has questions, stuff maybe we didn't talk about that you really wanted us to talk about, I will just remind everyone, go buy the Book of Esports. Make sure you listen to the podcast tomorrow when it drops. It was a really fun episode talking about all kinds of celebrity stuff and streamer stuff and like big gaming talent kind of thing.
Good one.
It was a good episode. Please tell people about the live stream, friends, family, people who are interested in the gaming industry. Spread the word. The more people we get in here, the more fun it is, the more interactive it is. We really have been loving and enjoying this. On that note, William, thank you again, as always.
Thank you, Paul. Are you kidding? Thank you.
Are we going to play Heroes now? Is that the goal?
I always play Heroes.
No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't actually going to.
One day
we're
gonna do a Fall Guys. Maybe next week we'll do a Fall Guys stream.
Don't make me play Fall Guys. Don't make me play Fall Guys.
I don't know.
I feel like Among Us would tear us apart.
Among Us.
I don't think we'd be friends at the end of Among Us.
Not that bad. I will crush you.
You probably would. Yeah. I'm a terrible liar. I really am. This is why the podcast works, because I can't. What I think comes out of my mouth. But on that note, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, as always, to everyone on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You can find us on all those places. So if there's anything you want us to talk about next week or anything we might have missed, you can always reach out. We love to interact with you guys. And we will see you all next week.